part 2 of the Turbo Regal 2020 upgrade session. As you can see, I have the engine still apart. I've been slowly working away at this Holden intake manifold adaptation. It's getting close. I'm getting ready to pull out the transmission so that we can do some upgrades for cooling. Alright, I just took off the front bumper and the front tires so I can get at the axles and pop those off the sides, and then I'll be able to make sure everything's disconnected. The whole harness was already disconnected from everything pulling the engine, so it should be pretty quick, and I'm excited to get this thing cleaned up and start making this engine bay a little bit more show worthy. Even though this is more of a performance upgrade, it's always nice to have things clean. It makes troubleshooting easier down the road if you got to unhook stuff. So just showing something real quick, I'm going to be cutting this along the line I drew right here because it's been interfering with the aluminum cradle that we swapped in from, I believe, a 2001 Impala that's now on this Regal. They bolt right in, but you do have some minor parts like the splash guards that you will have to work around. So I just wanted to show that real quick. I'll be cutting that, and that was something I just got out of the way while I was accessing the transmission mount. One thing I'm glad I noticed is the transmission mount is definitely separated on this. That's not good. I mean, I have the poly upper mounts, but these base mounts also need to be working well, especially when you're pushing 11-second power or better. The vertical movement is supposed to be just guided by this pin, while the front to back vibrations are isolated by those rubber sections. And I decided to get a new one because the poly mounts are not available right now. They're not in stock. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put clamps around this part to limit the amount of vertical movement. It'll still have a little bit of vibration absorption from the side to side, but it will not be allowed to drop down. It will limit the amount of movement. Alright, we jumped ahead to the next day. It took longer than I wanted for the transmission to pull, but that happens. Draining it now. We're going to put the new ZZP aluminum pan on and get it ready for AN lines to run the new cooler. And we're also going to install the Sonax clips for the differential sprayer line. It's a little $6 part. Anytime you have your filter off or anything, you could install that. It's a nice little upgrade. Okay, I'm just going to show a quick before and after of this clamp install since I don't have anything to hold the camera. So here's your before look. Here is the after. You can see the clamp holding that tube that goes to the differential end. It's got a new filter you can see over there. Just a Wix one right from the store. It also came with a gasket. I'm not going to be using the gasket that came with it just because it's this thin rubber material, no reinforcement. I cleaned up this OEM style one, and you can hear it's got a steel insert. I've got the pan cleaned up. I'm going to get these installed. I just hit it with some degreaser and rinsed it off. I put a new O-ring seal on the drain plug. Drain plug has a magnet. I wish I could transfer over the other magnet, but unfortunately aluminum doesn't hang on to a magnet like a steel pan does, so I will have to just use the drain plug one for now. The new pan is on there. It looks good up in the air. I was just setting it down. I took the differential out. I just inspected it, made sure the Transgo bushings that go in there, the washers around the planetaries were good. Didn't see any wear, no wear on the inside. So now we have the transmission all buttoned up. The aluminum trans pan is on there. I've got a new O-ring on the drain plug. I just rinsed it after scrubbing it down. I had black paint on there. It wasn't too good of a paint job. It looked good originally. I'll show you one of the first pictures of that, but I just plugged off all of the openings with some shop towels and hit it with some soapy water after kind of scrubbing off any flaky paint. Alright, we got the transmission all painted up. I went gray so that it just looks pretty standard but clean, and I'll be able to see any leaks. Got everything taped off right now. I'll go ahead and start peeling the tape off of that. I'm also going to be converting from the factory Buick brake booster to the recommended Chevy Impala Monte Carlo style one. I got it off eBay from a junkyard listing on eBay for, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 bucks, something like that. And it'll go on there and give me a lot more space for the big Statema turbocharged pipe, or turbo exhaust pipes, excuse me. I'll end part 2 there. I'm just gonna take the files off of my current PCM and clone it over to my spare PCM to have as a backup. I've got my offline tuner harness and a spare battery to run it in the office with instead of having to have it in the car. I've got paint drying on the transmission. I freshened up the paint on the brake booster, and I have a bunch of things in the works on the engine right now, so part 3 will be coming soon with that.